Yeah, I love talking about Joy Hour. It is a great event we do, and it's spreading across the country. The Joy Hour is creating a culture of connection. In a sober environment, we have all kinds of events and activities, but it really is creating a culture of connection. Our focus is addiction prevention, also addiction recovery, mental health, hope, and healing through connection. If you'd like to get involved, please go to theconsiderategroup.com/Joy Hour. So glad to have you today, Brad Swartz, on the Joy Hour podcast. We're just going to hang out and get to know each other a little more and use our stories to encourage the viewers. And, I know a little bit about you, but I'm excited today to get to know you more and get to know what all goes on in your world.
Thank you, Tom. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. You can just, jump in and take it from the beginning or wherever you'd like as far as your story.
Yeah, I got 3 generations of alcoholics and drug use, but mainly alcoholics on both sides of my family for 3 generations, and loggers on one side of the family and business people on the other side of the family. And my mother was about 5 or 6 years old, and my grandfather, he was the president of the chamber. He in Troy, Idaho. He built the community through his logging company and the sawmill, and pretty popular. And one day, it was about 3:00 in the morning, and to impress his wife and let his wife know that he loved her, there was a hospital in the area, and he bought that hospital, converted it into a home, and just wanted to have a successful, beautiful home for his wife. So they were downstairs in the kitchen, and the Hulk when his shirt's all ripped up, and you ever remember the Hulk movies?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so he had a church shirt on, and it was ripped up like the Hulk, and there was blood all over it. And my grandmother was, and he's a big, strong guy. I'm like the soulmate of my grandfather. And he was crying, and a big, strong logger, and he goes, I can't remember if I killed a guy or not in the fight. And my mother was probably about 5, 6 years old, and she was peeking into the kitchen, and he was just, first time she'd ever seen her dad cry. Wow. And he was a blackout drunk. So, and my parents were big drinkers, and they had a bar down in the basement, and they would dance down there, and just every single trap to make you think that alcohol was okay. Mm-hmm. So I was probably 12, and they'd got me involved in judo and wrestling because I was I had his spirit. I was going to go one way or the other. I was either going to go be a terror, or I was going to direct that into something really good. And she pointed at me and she said, "Don't ever drink. Mm-hmm. You have his spirit in you." And she said, "There's no other child that I birthed that is so similar to him. Mm-hmm. And don't ever drink, and don't ever get into these bar fights." So that's I kind of knew I had that seed inside me. Mm-hmm. But I was always, as I grew into the fitness business, I had mentors that had never drank. And, they say, "Hey, I got that monster inside me too." And I just decided not to water the seed. Mm-hmm. And I thought, man, I like that. And
good one.
My mentor of 49 years in the fitness business, he was a professional wrestler. He was a real wrestler. He was a boxer. And he held the Guinness Book World Record for opening and selling more athletic clubs than anybody in the world, like over 60 years. And I just happened upon him my junior year of college, and he liked me, I liked him, and he became my mentor for 45 plus years in the business. And he'd always said, just direct all your energy towards health and fitness and chase that L-dopamine that direction. Mm-hmm. And I mean, this is 1981. He was telling me this, and he was a tough guy. Graduated from the 3rd grade, and his mantra was, "Hey, I graduated from the 3rd grade," and he was worth several $1 million. He goes, "I guess I just did okay," but just a really humble guy, right. And a brawler. So I could really relate to him. So I all my mentors were from the fitness industry because it was more of a home than my own home. Because from the age of about 8 or 9, my dad would he'd get drunk, and he was military. And if me and my next door neighbor wanted to go roller skating, we had to hitchhike because they were too drunk. And he played military where you had to go through the front door and fight him, or you couldn't go. So from the age of about 7 or 8, I call my Native American buddy Dave, and we're buddies from the age of 3. But from the age of about 8 or 9, he'd come over. I go, can't leave until we go through the passage door. He goes, I'll be right over. He was about 6, 7 inches taller than me. And we would fist fight my dad. And he would have some type of weapon in his hand, hitting us with it, fist fighting. And I grew up until the age of about 12, 13 thinking, I think every kid roughhouses with their dad. You hit them in the face and, you break teeth out and you crack them and you fight. But then at about the age of 16, I went, I end up killing him if I stay here. So I left home when I was 16. I was kind of on my own from the age of about 16 and moved in with my wrestling coaches and moved in with other people. And the only thing that I really knew as a home were fitness centers. And from the age of 4 or 5, I had a judo coach that was he was a champion in the Pan American Games, Italian guy. So he was really discriminated against in judo. I had a Native African American girlfriend, so I was discriminated against in high school. So I'm kind of out there going, really, the only piece I have is working out. And so people go, man, you work a lot of hours. No, these athletic clubs are like my custom home where I bring my friends, and then I visit home every once in a while because I've never been really comfortable at home until I got out of that situation.
Right. Keep going. I'm just loving this. Yeah.
So my dad was really a bright guy. He was a computer programmer, kind of in the Bill Gates era of programming. But he drank. He drank every day. He'd go to the athletic club, and he had a fifth of whiskey. So he'd take a swig of that, and then he'd go play racquetball, and he could beat just about anybody. He was a marathon runner, but he was a full-fledged alcoholic, and he had a bottle of whiskey everywhere he went in his locker. He'd just take a swig of that. I'd go do judo, and he'd go beat everybody in racquetball. So everything in my being said, you can do anything you want on alcohol. Look at him.
Right.
But that warning from my mother said, that's probably a really bad idea to do that. And I could feel that I had that inside me. And I really kind of compartmentalized the fights with my dad. And I kept competing, and I was blessed enough to earn a scholarship to college. So I went to Oregon State. I did well. I was an All-American, won the Pac-12s a couple of times. And then I just kept competing because in 2001 was kind of a dark time in my life. I had some separation from family, and I was starting a new business, lost my mother, lost my father, and I heard this voice going, I'm an orphan. I lost my parents early. And I heard God go, I took your dad out. I want to be your father. And I just went, wow, I now have a father? And it was just, from that moment on, I got down on my knees and I go, you take me through this dark spot and I'll be a light for you. So, didn't know we'd get here.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, I hear you.
So I started competing, and my mother was a real fan of wrestling. So she passed away in 2001, and I go, I'm going to dedicate the year to her. So I started working out 3 times a day, and I dropped my weight from 237 down to 167. My kids were my coaches, so I had that connection with my kids. They were really good wrestlers, and I could feel my mother's spirit. I was in Switzerland, and I feel this person sitting next to me. I go, wow, she just passed away 5 or 6 days before that. I go, I'm gonna commit this tournament to her, and I could smell her. It's weird. I could kind of smell her, and she was there, and I go, okay, here we go. And I had won my first world title that year, and I beat guys I probably shouldn't have beat in wrestling. And at that point, I went, That's what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to be a light for God. And that was 2001. So I've, been blessed enough to win 23 national titles. And last year I won my 7th world title in Masters. Awesome. And I was in Poland, Warsaw, Poland, right next to where the war was a year ago. And I was going against a couple of guys that were literally in the war, came across the border, and wrestled. And I had a 12-time world champ in the finals. And this guy was he was like the Muhammad Ali of wrestling in that area. And when we went out for the finals, I just wrestled his buddy, and he was a 5-time world champ, and I beat him. And that was just a good, tough match. But I'm in Poland. I'm in their world, right? So this guy there, everybody's patting him on the back, and I'm there by myself, and oh man, what am I doing here, Lord? And now I got this 12-time world champ guy. So I went down to the bathroom. I came back up, and they normally give you about 45 minutes before you compete again. And they're signaling me out. They're going, let's go. Going, oh, this is a setup. You're not going to give me 45 minutes. You're going to make me wrestle 5 or 6 minutes after I wrestled his buddy. And we collided heads. I cracked his head a little bit on a takedown. They were still mopping blood off the mat from his workout partner, who was a 5-time world champ. So now this guy's 6'2". He's won 12 world titles. He's 6% body fat. And I'm 5'7". And I went in the corner and I prayed and go, should I petition and make them give me 45 minutes so I can be ready for this is the finals. So it was the last match of the entire tournament. There's about 500 people around our mat. all the other people were done. And I went out there and man, it was just the Spirit of God. I took him down. He landed on his back, kind of knocked him out a little bit. I pinned him and the match was over. Wow. And I take that and I go, I'm done, right? And God goes, no, you're going to take that back and you're going to share that with everybody. So to know that I could have taken the direction of my parents, and my dad died early. He was brain dead for 3 days in his home when they found him. And I was the last one that was in his hospital room. And for a week, he had the death rattles. And I had to be in his room because no one would stay with him. I go, man, I can't let him die alone. And when I was really young, he made me memorize the 23rd Psalms. And I mean, relatives that come in and they go, why won't he just die? And they're talking about the inheritance and all that stuff. And it just made me sick. And here I'm the guy that I left home when I was 16. I hadn't seen him since that hospital.
Wow. So
I'm in there and the nurse and all the people are coming. They go, okay, his breaths are getting very short. He's probably going to die in a couple of minutes. So I had my Bible there, and I went over there, and I mean, he looked like a zombie. I mean, it was horrible. You couldn't even look at him. His eyes were rolling. It was gray, and he was supposed to be dead. They unhooked him. He was supposed to be dead, right? And he didn't want to die. So I went beside his bed. I opened up the Bible, and I had the 23rd Psalms memorized. And it was quite a moment because right then he passed. Right when I finished the full 23rd Psalm. So I did it by memory. And then he went, I'll never forget it, he went just like this. And his eyes turned blue. He looked right at me and his eyes turned blue and he smiled from this zombie. Yeah. So I just went, okay, now I know there's a heaven. Yeah. I know there's a God. And I know that I can look past anything to be in the presence of God. So really, for me, my feeling is about drugs and alcohol is I think it's a choice. I think it's a process of choices. And I always look at, and everybody around me, I come from a blue-collar, tough neighborhood. And then I started dating an African-American girlfriend, and that was even a tougher neighborhood. And I really believe that it's a choice that you can make. And I always remember the story of Lazarus, where Jesus, his best friend was Lazarus,
Right.
and the sister says, Jesus, Lazarus, he's died, and trying to make the 3-day mark, right?
Mm-hmm.
Jesus rose on the third day. You got to come, you got to bring back to life, and Jesus waited one more day.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna wait 4, and to have all his family carry him. And by the 4th day, they're probably smelling. Mm-hmm. And he finds the house where Jesus is. Now it's 4 days, and they're going, there's not much hope left. But these guys had hope. So they get on the roof, and they pull the thatch away. And I imagine these guys are lowering this body down in there. And Jesus knew what was happening the whole time, and he brings them back to life. Mm-hmm. So I go, man, if Jesus can do that, right, he can certainly take that addiction away from you. Mm-hmm. He can take that desire away. So I prayed that, and I go, I don't ever want to have that addiction. Mm-hmm. And knowing that seed is there, it's kind of comforting to go, I have a choice. I don't have to water it. Mm-hmm. And then, my mentor, who grew up Catholic for 45 years, my mentor, he says, just take that and turn that into good. Turn that into competition. Turn it into good works. And, it really became my ministry. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people, they go, 47 years in the fitness industry. Why? It's like home. It's not really like work. Yeah. It's like I can help people and, addicted to food, addicted to drugs, addicted to alcohol, addicted to your phone, as we were talking before. Right. Why not be addicted to exercise? Mm-hmm. So I started working with a psychologist because I had been married 19 years, and I asked for a divorce, and that was a dark time in 2001. Mm-hmm. So I went to marriage counseling for 5 years by myself, okay, with a licensed marriage counselor that was a Baptist minister. Mm-hmm. And 1 week into it, it was during the time with Analyze This. Remember that movie? Mm-hmm. I think it was Robert De Niro, where he's crying all the time. So he'd put me to tears all the time. And then finally he says, you're addicted to exercise. You got to stop. Well, it says 3 times a week, and you got to be a world champ, and you got to be a world-class husband, and you got to be a world champion at business, and you got to be the world's best. You're addicted to exercise. Stop exercising for a week, please. You got to feel some of this. You got to feel some of the remorse and feel the pain of all these people dying, I guess, right? Grief, right?
Right.
And I saw him every Wednesday. So I come back the next Wednesday, and I'm getting ready for Worlds, and I'm working out, and he goes, how'd it go? And I go, I wanted to put a gun in my mouth and blow my brains out. He goes, you know what? You should probably exercise.
Yeah.
Yeah, the side effects of exercise, chasing those endorphins, yeah, versus not having something to deal with the pain. Mm-hmm. And, they say that endorphins are 10 times more powerful than morphine. And you see a guy in war, blows his arm out, they give him morphine, he can handle it, right? He's looking at his arm going, wow, that's a pretty powerful drug, right? Mm-hmm. But if endorphins are 10 times more powerful, and God already put that inside us, right, why not chase it for good? Mm-hmm. So combative athletics, man, you get an endorphin rush. Yeah. And people know in my businesses, if he's in that wrestling room, you leave him alone. That's his hour and a half. You go in there, it better be life or death. That's his 1 hour a day, 6 days a week. That's what he gets to do. Leave him alone. Mm-hmm. And I come out of that. It's combative. It's good. It's endorphin release. And I can just sit there and just take in the world. And they say endorphins can stay in your body for up to 48 hours. Mm-hmm. So if you're training 6 days a week, yeah, I figure I'm pretty good, right? Yeah, yeah. And if I'm going to be addicted to something, how about being addicted to exercise? Yeah. Oh, yeah, he's addicted to exercise. Like, okay, and the benefits are pretty good, mm-hmm, right? So if you combine that with having a higher power, mm-hmm, and checking yourself. And, I love David. I used to apologize for being so radical. Like, yeah. And I'm much nicer now. I'm not so intense with my employees. Like, about 10 years ago, I went, Brad, just be you. It's like David when God said, "Go prove your love for me and go out there and kill 100 soldiers and bring back all the scrotums." And David brings back 200. I go, man, that's my guy, my man.
Yeah.
So it's okay in Jesus's eyes if you got a radical side, Brad.
Yeah.
Just be you.
Right.
Be you. Be your intense side. Quit trying to water it down. You're not happy with it. And we had a thing where I don't know if you remember the movie Vision Quest, a wrestling movie.
Okay.
And there was a villain and his name was Shoot. And it was filmed in my high school in 1985. Well, the villain saw me win a national title 2 years ago. And it was a wrestling movie where a guy cuts down to weight and he's going to wrestle the 2-time state champ. Shoot. Well, my first company was named Vision Quest.
Right.
And it was very, very successful. And we had it for 13 years, sold it to a larger company, took a 5-year break, and then we started this company, Fitness Quest. Well, the Shoot guy, that's him right there, the yellow. Now, there's a scene in this movie where he's at the high school, that's Loudon, and he goes, "You're going to challenge me?" And he was scouting him, right? I'm in Las Vegas. I just, blessed enough, I won a world title 2 years ago. And Shoot's there. And he goes, "I hear you want to wrestle me." And I go, "What?" He goes, "Yeah, your company was named after me. Here you want to go." I said, "Well, yeah, if you want to do some type of thing for the kids and because he's a podcast guy and he's pretty popular. He's the most popular villain in wrestling ever, for real wrestling. He really helped the sport of wrestling. Madonna was in the movie. It's a pretty famous movie.
Okay.
So we start talking, and he goes, "Yeah, we can. We'll kind of choreograph it." And I go, "Oh, I'm in pretty good shape." I said, "Are we really going to do something choreographed? Or, like in most cases, are you going to go full on in the match?" I said, "I need to know." He goes, "Oh, no, choreographed." So we did a couple podcasts, and one of the podcasts was the guy that does a podcast for the Mariners. Okay. And I've got Shoot online, I'm online. I go, "This is going to be great. It'll be good promotion for my clubs, and the kids will love it." And so he gets on, and he goes, "Hey, what colors are the colors of your athletic club?" I said, "Red, blue, black." He goes, "Oh, that's what you're going to look like when I get done with you. I'm going to slap that." And I go, "All right." I said, "Hey, if this, I don't know if this is real or not, but I just got off nationals. I just got off worlds. I'm ready to go. I'm training twice a day." So it kind of got escalated. So he shows up, and I had to pay him for a appearance fee, pretty big appearance fee. In our Auburn and Puyallup clubs, separate deals for the kids, autographs, and we'll do a choreographed match just like the movie.
Right. Well,
the Friday night before that, I said, "Let's work at the choreograph." And he's 6'2". He's a double black belt in martial arts. He's gone to Japan, and he's a high level herbologist. I mean, this guy's in rip shape. Okay, and all of a sudden we start going, and he escalates it into a live match. And I go, "If you do this tomorrow." I said, "I'm going to escalate it too because I'm not going to let you hurt me." "Oh, no. Well, I come to find out he's trying to promote another movie. And he wanted to beat the 7-time world champ. And he'd been working out with a wrestler that just won the NC2As, national championships. Yeah. So we get to Saturday. There's 300 kids in the Auburn club. You know the Auburn club, right? Yeah. So we're there. And he's got his log. There's a scene where he's climbing the bleachers, and he's got his log because he's just an animal. So he has a log with him. And typical Brad Swartz is I contracted for him to shoot 4 or 5 commercials while he was there. That's him. He brought the log with him.
Right.
Okay. And he's from Eastern Washington, the college there, and he was a bodybuilder, roided out bodybuilder that was a wrestler at that time. So he got off all that stuff, and he was still just huge, right? So we get to Saturday, we shake hands.
And what year is this that you're doing the wrestling?
It's 2 years ago.
Okay.
2 years ago, he called me out, and it's like, everyone's going, "You're going to wrestle Shoot?" Now it's going viral. It's like nobody beats Shoot, and they're doing all the famous sayings in the movie. "Nobody wrestles Shoot," and "Loudon, you shouldn't be cutting down a weight." And so I'm kind of a surreal thing because he was kind of my hero. You know, he was a tough wrestler, and of course Loudon was kind of the skinny, lanky guy that was going to wrestle him. I go, man, is that me? Am I Loudon or am I Shoot? I guess I'm Loudon. So we go hard, and all of a sudden he lets out this war call like, "Rah!" I go, man, that is almost embarrassing, weird out there. Two grown men that are brawling out there, and the kids are loving it because the kids are thinking it's real, and the parents are like, okay, they're putting on a show. It was real. He went hard, and I think at the time I was maybe 175, and he was 215, and he was all yoked out, and I not only did I beat him, but we're filming all this because we're going to make some commercials, right? Going to do some awkward commercials like Brad Swartz takes on the Shoot, and he makes his comeback, after COVID. And ended up beating him really good, but he cracked his eye open, and it looked like an axe murderer got to him, and ended up pinning him in the match. And it was kind of weird. But after that, the kids loved it. And it was a hardcore wrestling match. The second one was even more intense in Puyallup. And I told him, you do it again, I'm going to go. He goes, no. This time he did it again. But I had my youngest son there, and Jake goes, he's going to go hard. He's been warming up for a half hour. He's going to go hard. Go out there, go hard. Mm-hmm. And we went out there, and thank goodness I was in great shape. Yeah. And I took it to Shoot. I beat the villain. And so we're signing posters and having fun. And now his eyes opened up. And he still, for another 2 hours after that, he shot some of the best commercials we've ever had, which are on TV right now. With the log, on the treadmill, you can see a little cut right there. It's not bad, but you could tell that he'd been in a battle. And he shot all the commercials just like a trooper. It was, wow. So now we're best friends.
What an experience. And how old is he approximately?
He's probably 61.
Okay.
Yeah, 61, and I was 61, 62 at the time.
Okay.
But physiologically, because you have to go to these world tournaments, you have to get a full physical. Yeah. And, people ask what my age is. I said, what's that important to you? Yeah. Why is it important for you to know that? Yeah. My chronological age. Physiologically, they measured me at 28.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a curiosity for a lot of us. I've never wrestled in my life, but in a view of admiration. Yes. Like how great of shape you are. Yes. Compared to a lot of 60-year-olds. And like that goal of I'm 46 right now, I'd love to be in great shape when I'm 60 or 70. Who wouldn't? So I think that's a curiosity question on my end.
Not only that, but I really believe in Romans where it says, speak that which does not exist as if it does, so it becomes, right? So I don't like, it's not that I'm offended when somebody asks that. Right. I'm jamming them up. Yeah. Because I'm going, why do you need to know that? My physiological age is 28. Yeah. Right? That's all I want you to know because that's what's in my head. That's good. Physiologically 28. So if you're tied to that chronological. Okay. And you're thinking about that, are you thinking yourself into mediocrity and not being in shape and my joints and all of that? And I believe all the power that God gave us is in the human brain. Come on. So when I did the physiological, and they did my testosterone level, my DHEA levels, $2,200 in blood tests. They did my growth hormone levels. My oxygenation level was that of an Olympic athlete. And I'm training twice a day. I'm doing 87 miles a month on the elliptical. I'm wrestling 6 days a week, one with an Olympic a guy that made the Olympic team and some of the college guys. So I'm thinking, okay, that physiologically said I'm 28. Mm-hmm. I'm beating a lot of the college guys. So I'm one of the best guys in the world as far as my fitness level. So in Poland, when I won, probably one of my greatest moments of all time is I'm there with all my peers, 500 wrestlers, 32 countries, and the guy from Poland, and remember there's a war right across the border. Right. And the guy from Poland, who was the most powerful political guy there, and I'm there by myself, and I just won, and I feel pretty good, and he goes, man, you got all this stuff. The Polish guy, now keep in mind, I'm in Poland, Warsaw, Poland, and you're seeing guns and you're seeing going across the border and oh, man, we're pretty close to Ukraine. And the guy beating the finals was from Ukraine. So he came across the border and I whooped a couple of Ukrainian guys. So the guy just finished the match. There's 1,000 people out there and it's a pretty good sized arena. And the guy looks at me and goes, don't you go anywhere. I go, oh, wow. I'm sitting in a chair and I'm kind of far out of the way and I'm thinking, don't go anywhere. And I just beat, their hero. And then someone else says, do you know that's one of the most powerful political people in Poland? I go, okay, foreign country, all by myself. So they're giving out the medals and doing the thing, and I was pretty tired. I started drifting a little bit, and he goes, "You now!" And there's this big stage. Come here. And I'm going, okay. So I get up there. He goes, we've never done this for an American guy before. This is and he spoke pretty good English. He was actually an ambassador for America and for the war and from Poland. And he goes, you're going to get an award. We just voted you the best world champion of the entire year out of 500 people from 25 to 65 years old. And I had this giant trophy, and I'm like emotional. I'm just emotional going, wow. So I got up there with the trophy, and everybody started coming up, and I lifted the two guys up that I had competed against, and I gave them a hug, and everybody crowded around me, and they said, why you? And these are Europeans. These guys, their attitude is, you do heavy manual labor work into your 60s and 70s, and then you go wrestle for 2 hours every day. So their grips are like, they're iron workers, they're stone workers. For gathering wood, they go into the mountains and pull it out of the mountains themselves. So a lot of manual labor stuff, and they were asking me why I was so much stronger than them. And that was really kind of a moment for me that, boy, if you live the right way and you eat the right way, you can really accomplish anything you want. And I brought this poster because it's kind of really my ministry, and it says in Habakkuk 2:2, write the vision down on a tablet. He who reads it may run towards it. And I look at that and I go,
right there.
To me, that's really my scripture of, that's a promise from God. If you write a vision down and you make it plain, he who reads it may run towards it. So whatever you have on your to-don't list, and you start getting rid of that to-don't list, your to-do list really starts to get smaller too. You knock out all these things. You have this big to-don't list, and there's all the things I'm not going to do anymore. And then your to-do list, it gets a lot smaller because I think you have more success in life if you're not having to worry about managing things that were created out of drug addiction or out of alcoholism. Your to-do list grows really big, right? Like, I got to go see a parole officer. I've got to go to rehab. I got to do all these things. And if you can, my mentor would say, have a giant to-don't list of things you're not going to do and move away from those. And he says, Brad, your to-do list will get really small so you have more time to help other people.
I love this. I have never in my 46 years heard that, a to-don't list.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm a list guy. Yeah. So I've got a list of several pages, and then all of a sudden I start listening to my mentor and going, you know what? If I'm perfect with my wife and I'm a perfect husband, I don't have to have a divorce attorney.
Right.
If I'm in the best shape of my life, I saw a statement that said, working out is hard, but being obese and being on a system that keeps you breathing and where you have to have a mask, that's harder.
Yeah.
So it's harder to be obese than it is to work out.
Right.
So, okay, I'll take that.
Right.
It's harder to work and have a great job, but poverty is even harder. So I go down in Seattle, I see these homeless people, and they're freezing and shaking. I go, man, that's the hardest job in the world, trying to make it through the night alive, right? So my heart goes out for those that are struggling, but I also look at it and I go, change your thoughts. Right. Change your circle of influence of who you have.
Right.
And it's okay to be addicted to good things. You're obsessive compulsive about winning, Brad.
Yeah.
Like, those are probably people that don't quite understand what it takes to be at the world level of any sport. Like, I'm okay with that.
Right.
Oh, you're obsessive compulsive about work. I love work. Yeah. And work to me is really, it's a passion. It's not, I've never worked a day in my life.
Yeah.
It's just, I get to go home and I get to share my life with other people. And the more I work out, the more I move away from watering that seed.
Watering that seed.
I know it's there, but I don't have to water it.
Right. Real quick, I'll touch on the biggest loser and biggest gainer at Fitness Quest. My son, who's almost 16 now, about a year ago, so I'm 2 years into being sober, and so thankful, thank God for every bit of my journey in that area. As you know, I've shared some of my story with you. I had about a 10-year struggle with alcohol and about a 5-year struggle with substance. Still a functional addict, own my own business, still went to church, everything was fine, but it wasn't. And so went to rehab, and so thankful for that. I'm at 25 months and never looking back, never going to those things. Thank you, sir. It's a big deal. Yeah. And I feel so special. I felt so special when I was at the Biggest Loser as well, because a lot of people there, but you took some time to speak into my son and into me personally. And I'll never forget that. And, I lost 15 pounds. My son gained 20 pounds. And we still go to your gym in Auburn, and we love it. And the bonding time that we have as father and son. And this morning at 4:30, I got up and I took my 15-year-old son, my 13-year-old daughter, and my 9-year-old son. And again, we had the best bonding time as a father and children should. Is it hard to get up that early? Yeah. But is it harder to think, like you said, about where I could go if in a year I didn't go at all and I let myself go physically?
Yes.
And how good of a father can I be if I'm, I've been up to 285 pounds. Right now I'm about 260. Feel pretty healthy.
Look good.
Is there always room for improvement? Absolutely. But the one day at a time concept of, no, last night I said I'm getting up and going to the gym with my son. Set the alarm. I'm getting up with my son.
Yeah.
And what you told us is for him to hold me accountable and me to hold him accountable.
Yes.
He's my coach. I'm his coach.
Yes.
And in every area of life.
Empower him.
Right. And in every area of life, I think, whether it's food, exercise, anything, accountability is so important. And for years, I know myself, I didn't want accountability. I wanted to quit something, but I didn't want to have somebody in my life as somebody I would be accountable to, because I wasn't really wanting to quit. But fitness is such a big part of recovery. It's such a big part of prevention. We talk a lot about addiction prevention. And so my son, he knows every bit of my story. And I'm just so glad that I'm surrounded in an environment with the vision and what you talk and what you teach a lot in fitness. And I look forward to learning more. Growing up in a small school in Bellevue, we never had sports. We had 30 students in the school. My graduating class was 2 people.
Wow.
So I never did sports because we didn't have enough kids. And so construction became my sport in my life.
Yeah.
And for most of my life was sober. But had about a 10-year struggle there. And I don't have time probably to get into that today. But I'm so glad. And I know when I do get up early, my whole mental health is way different. On the days I skip, I just feel sluggish. I feel depression. I feel anxiety. I feel overwhelmed. My to-do list got bigger. It's really odd. But between the Bible, of course, being my number one go-to, Atomic Habits is my probably second favorite book, and I got quite a few others. But then having people like yourself and your team there, Daniel has been such an awesome encouragement to me, such a great trainer, and Jeff, and I won't go into everyone that I've met, but just a great atmosphere where they come over to my kids and they say hi and good job and you're looking good, and just speaking into my children in a way where even if I said the same thing, it's different coming from a trainer. It's different coming from the owner of the gym. And so keep that up. The Biggest Loser, Biggest Gainer competitions and everything else that you do in Fitness Quest. Just amazing. It's been very helpful to my recovery process that, I tell people I'm not an addict. I don't say, hi, I'm Tom, I'm an addict.
Yeah.
I say I'm in recovery from some addictions, and I'm always vulnerable.
Yeah.
I'm aware. I can be addicted to working out. I can be addicted to talking about recovery. I can be addicted to God. I can be addicted to being a father. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with addiction in the right way, like you said. But channel that the other way, and it is choices.
Yes.
We make a choice, and 1 turns into 2, and 2 turns into 100, and now we're homeless.
Yep.
And we look back and go, yeah, we could blame people all day long and say it's this, I'm a product of my environment. But ultimately, no, you can change the trajectory of your life by changing your disciplines and what you tell yourself in the morning. I do this, and I love this. I'm going to keep what you said, the to-don't list. That's huge.
Bigger the to-don't list, the smaller the to-do list. Mm-hmm. And, I because I've grown up in the fitness industry, and the one thing that is a good thought process in the brain is for 45 minutes, which is 1% of your life, if you can work out 3 times per week for a 90-day period of time, American Heart Association says your energy level goes up 30%. Mm-hmm. So if you're trading that workout time, 1% of your life, and you're going to gain 30% back for your family and for you got 2 full-time jobs here. Yeah. And how is he going to do that? You better be in good shape.
Yeah.
And you better be efficient. And you better sleep really good. And all those things together, that's what really drives me in. And I have to put that hour and a half in because I want to keep the 30% efficiency. I move faster. Yep. I'm more effective. I make better decisions. And I'm not spending a lot of money on things that are bad. The average American spends about 13% of their income on things that are bad: drug, alcohol, and processed food. Mm-hmm. So, man, how expensive is it to go train?
Yeah.
It's not. Right. You're going to gain 13% back by making better choices.
Right.
And the last one for you, and the reason I had the talk with your son is it's breaking the generational curse.
Right.
See, my goal was for my kids to feel weird and awkward around me to drink. I wanted them to feel weird. I mean, that'd be weird if I went and had a beer, or that would be stupid in front of my dad.
Right.
I wanted it to be uncomfortable and make it a generational curse of something that I just didn't want. I didn't want that seed. I didn't want to move in that direction.
Right.
Knowing that could have been a vulnerability.
Huge shout out to Zekin. They are doing amazing things to help us, and they will help you. For more information, hit here.
You said something early on about the trap of making alcohol look fun. I'm going to hold on to that saying as well. And it's so rampant, whether it's, you're on vacation or you're at an event, it's a wedding, let's drink. It's a funeral, let's drink. It's a graduation, let's drink. It's a birthday party, let's drink. And this is what we need to be aware of. It's always going to be there. It's been legal for how many years, and it's normalized. Drink responsibly, you're fine. Go to a sporting event and drink responsibly. But now get in your car and jump on the freeway and drive home. And how many car accidents happen? You went to rehab. There's a whole stigma that I've found in talking to people. I have made it a purpose this last 2 years to be as vocal as I can. Okay. Hey, I went to rehab. It was awesome. It helped change my life. I'm so glad I went to rehab. I'll stand in front of anybody and say that, because there should not be a stigma of rehab. You see, rehab taught me a lot about deeper rooted things I had: resentment, anger, hurts from childhood I hadn't dealt with. And drugs and alcohol were the symptom. Mm-hmm. The deeper rooted things at rehab. So I, out of love, I'll look at some friends once in a while when we're talking like this, and I'll say, bro, you should try rehab. They're like, I don't drink or do drugs at all. I'm like, still, you might want to try it. And so we have these programs now that we do at our office, behavioral changes programs. Tonight we'll be doing the anger management.
Good.
But what I've realized, Brad, is most of my anger, whenever I would have road rage, when I would yell at an employee or a subcontractor, was actually internal.
Yeah.
Because my expectation was I was going to get up at 5 a.m., but I hit snooze. So now I'm late for everything all day long. Right. So if you cut me off, I'm furious. Yeah. But now that I get up early, I'm like, go ahead. I'm a half hour early for everything. I'm fine. And I go home. I have more energy to be a great dad, more energy to do chores around the house. Right. When I get up and hit the gym, it completely is night and day difference compared to when I sleep in. And, you'll hear this saying a lot these days, I'm so tired, I don't have any time. Well, look at your screen time, sir.
That's right.
Look at your phone and go to the settings, ma'am, and find out what your screen time is from staring at this device that's completely sucking the energy out of us. So yeah, I'm so tired I can't go to the gym. Oh, the gym's so expensive, I can't do it. Amazon, click, purchase. Okay, pornography. Okay, what else can I do for the dopamine that I need? Let's buy something else. Let's go back to porn. And so this thing here, let's play a video game. I'm a gamer. I play for 5 hours a day. And this thing here is completely destroying households because it's taking over and it's taking the energy out of us. But that morning routine I have found is so incredibly critical. Lately, what I've done is the second I touch my phone, I don't go to anything other than the Bible app. Yeah. I turn it on, I hit play. So even as I'm brushing my teeth, doing my routine, getting dressed, maybe it's 2 minutes, maybe it's 10 minutes. It's always different. Then I'll get in the car, I'll go to the gym, I'll have positive music. So much of what we take in is through our eye, or everything we take in is through our eyes and ears that will really dictate our mindset and the way we look at the world. And so that first morning routine, if I jump on and I'm late because I hit snooze, right, I'm going to go, oh, what's my emails? What's my text? Oh, okay, I don't want to deal with that right now. Let's go to social media and distract myself, or let's go to, right? Yeah. But if I start out with some meditation, some quiet time, slow it down, some exercise, some breathing, some Bible reading, man, it just completely changes the entire day, where now when somebody cuts me off, I go, it's okay. Maybe they didn't see me. Right. It's okay. Maybe they just lost a loved one. Yes. It's okay. Who knows who in their life just committed suicide and they don't even see what's going on. They're just trying to get to work. You never know what other people are going through. I'm using examples here, but being aware that the reason most of us are angry is because of our daily disciplines in the morning are not, and all day, are not what they need to be. And as you know, of course, the things that we are to do is to love God and love our neighbor as ourself. Right. And lately that's been sticking with me is, how can I love my neighbor as myself if I don't love myself?
That's right. Take care of you.
So it starts with you. You've got to go, I'm Tom, and I'm 260 pounds, and this is who I am. Could I be in a little better shape? Sure. Could I be better with my spending? Sure. I'm working on those things. But I'm good with who I am. I like my freckles, and God made me, and this is who I am. And when I love myself for all those things, whether it's physical or financial or any of those, then I can go throughout the day and truly love my neighbor as myself.
You spoke about breathing. Scientifically proven now that if you close your mouth and breathe in through the nose, hold it, and then breathe out through the nose, and then you start to do that in your training on the elliptical and working out, and you become just a nose breather, in through the nose, out through the nose, that your oxygenation input will go up 30% because you're creating oxygen deprivation. Your body's going, we're starving for oxygen because you're not going, and that's panic. That's your body panicking. So when you're talking about just breathing in the morning and throughout the day, and then you push it down to the diaphragm. See, when I wrestle, my mouth is closed the entire time. High-level athletes, competitively, they don't open their mouths. They keep them closed. So I'm recovering 30% faster than my opponent. I'm recovering while I'm actually out there wrestling. And when we're close like that, and I hear, I go, I'm breaking this guy. And all he hears is this.
Wow.
And my heart rate's slowing down. My heart rate is 30% lower than his heart rate. I'm on idle, and he's redlining at 180 in the middle of a wrestling match. So my recovery is so much better. I go, you know what? I'm going to do that on the elliptical. I'm never going to open my mouth. And a lot of athletes, they'll either tape their mouth when they go to sleep. Wow. And you see them with the masks on. Those are restriction masks, so it's harder to breathe, creating oxygen deprivation, which increases your oxygenation level. Yeah. Now remember that the number one fuel to the brain is oxygen. So now you have more energy. And they're saying 80% of the relaxation of smoking cigarettes is the deep breathing, not the nicotine. The nicotine is killing them. It's the deep breathing.
Wow. Yeah.
Same thing with pot. So, and I learned that back early in the 1980s about deep breathing, and heard about a yogi that could bring his heart rate down to 2 beats per minute. I go, man, I want to be that guy. Because we're born with 1 in 3 trillion heartbeats, 1 in 3 trillion electrical impulses. So you can use them as fast as you want or as slow as you want. Wow. See, my resting heart rate's 48, and the average American's 82. And my goal is, be fruitful like the Bible says to 120 and live to 125, right?
There you go.
So the Bible says be fruitful to 120. So that means I got to be working hard and be in the best shape of my life at 120. A lot of people go, I don't want to do that. No, you're seeing the picture of your relatives, and they're decimated at 60 or 70, and they live in a wheelchair for another 10 years, and then they die. You don't want that.
Wow.
But what if you're fruitful, which is a promise, and I take every word in the Bible literally.
Yeah.
So if I'm supposed to be fruitful to the age of 120, and we had Adam, he lived to 800 and some years old. We had Medulla, she lived over 900 years old. We had Noah, he was 800 plus. 120, 125 shouldn't be a stretch.
Right.
If I'm doing all the right things, then I get to see my great grandchildren, and they're gonna know nothing about alcohol and drugs. They're gonna think that is the stupidest thing I've never had anybody in our family that's done that.
Right.
And it started with a generational curse break.
Yeah.
One last weird thing, you talk about kind of pushing things down and not really recognizing it, and a lot of people go, "Why do you wrestle?" I go, "Man, I love it." Well, I mean, it's combative, and the harder somebody wrestles, because of the fights with my dad at age 6 or 7 or 8 years old, I thought that was love. Hitting people in the face, I thought was love. I go, man, that's the most twisted thing a human being could possibly think of, that banging and brawling is love? Are you kidding me? But I was at Worlds one year. My wife went and was in Russia, and I had a Russian in the finals in Russia, and he started slugging. And I looked at the referee, and referee went, "You're in Russia, man. Go. Brawl. Don't be a wimp." I go, "Okay, I guess we're going to go harder." And I was fortunate enough, I won the match. And then there's always which is my favorite part, is we have a big party at the end. There's no alcohol, and you have a communion with 32 different countries.
Wow.
And there's very few words spoken, but 87% of communication is nonverbal, right? So we get each other. And so I'm sitting next to my wife's over here, and I'm sitting next to my Russian buddy. He's all black and blue. He's got lumps on his head. I got a black eye. And she goes, "You guys are the weirdest guys in the whole world. And now you're friends?" I said, "Of course we're friends. We have an admiration for, at any age, but still at our age, being in world-class shape. We feel blessed."
Yeah.
And that's what you're feeling in here, is a bunch of guys that feel blessed in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, all the way up to their 70s. And most of them are 5, 6, 7% body fat.
That's awesome.
And for the European, it's normal.
Right.
Because they eat the right way. Muslims, they don't drink. Iranians, they don't drink, they don't do drugs, they don't look at porn. They're great athletes. I'm going, you know what? We may have the same higher power, I don't know, I think we do, but I like that. I like that you're that disciplined.
Yeah. Love it. I was thinking of a couple things as you were talking too about the cost of fitness versus the cost of obesity or bad health.
Yes.
And I know a little bit about supplements, but can you speak on that for just a couple minutes? Just some of the main, like if somebody was watching this and curious, like what are the top, 3 or 5 items that you would recommend as far as supplements to start changing to help when they're changing their habits?
I'll give you number one. This is the easiest. I'll give you number one because it can progress after that. The most important thing is intermittent fasting. And some of the people that live longer than anybody in the world, their philosophy is to eat half as much and move twice as much. And those are some of the monks and I study them because they're athletes, they're disciplined, and they have so much control of what's happening. So just the one thing that I'd recommend would be a protein, a really good protein. We happen to have one of the best that it's a 4-step protein, and it's made for fasting. You want to get a good protein. 1 meal a day, your last meal of the day, thing that just changed my life, and just 2 hours before you go to bed. Well, what's the magic time at night to stop eating? 2 hours before you go to bed. It's not 8, it's not 9, it's not 10. If you're a night owl and you go to bed at midnight, then you stop eating at 10. Because your body hibernates. Anyways, so your last meal should be 2 hours before you go to bed. If you make that a protein meal with no carbs in it or very little carbs in it, You're going to feed the muscle, and then your body is going to go into a ketosis state, catabolic state, where it's going to start burning body fat around 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. You're going to wake up in the morning leaner, and the first thing in the morning, breakfast, you're breaking your fast. You should have one more protein meal, and that's it, and then have a nice lunch. If you just made that one move, they always say that in my industry, you cannot train a bad diet. So that one meal costs you about $2.50. Right. And people go, wow, how expensive is a protein? I said, it's about $2.50 a meal. And you go to McDonald's, it's $17, and you get to have a heart attack afterwards. That's a heart attack and stroke waiting to happen, right?
Amen.
Or, and it's 900 to 1,200 calories if you supersize it. This is only 150 calories.
Yeah.
It's a mathematical equation. So if you take all the emotion out of dieting and you just go, this is a normal thing that I do. I just have one protein meal, last meal of the day. And I can't tell you how many times where I'm working with a guy that's 400 pounds right now. And I worked with another one that lost over 200 pounds over a year period of time. And the one thing he said he stopped doing, he stopped drinking sugared Coke at night.
Yeah.
He stopped drinking sugar.
Right.
And he took my advice and he did the one protein meal at night. And what it does, it creates satiation where you're not hungry for that next 2 hours. See, eat like a Prince in the morning, a Popper in the morning, a Prince in the afternoon, and at night, I'm sorry, I got it backwards. A King in the morning, a Prince in the afternoon, and a Popper at night. So you have your biggest, best meal in the morning.
Right.
To move your metabolic rate. Have a good breakfast.
Right.
Try and stay away from carbs, because if you stay away from carbs and have a nice breakfast, then you have a nice lunch, and then by your dinner, you've worked out, and that's when you're most stressed out. So you got to not use food as it's the worst drug in the entire world. It's the most abused drug in the world, food for stress.
Right.
You eat so you can go to sleep. No, by eating too much, all your blood is digesting the food and interrupts your sleep patterns. So you stop eating 2 hours before you go to bed, and you get the best sleep of your night. You're going to wake up just a little bit hungry, and start to like that, because you're going to get on the scale and go, I've lost 2 more pounds.
Yeah.
You get on the scale the next day, I've lost 2 more pounds. I've lost 2 more pounds. See, I was the opposite of that. Nothing in the morning, afternoon, lunch, and then pound at night.
Yeah.
That was my addiction,
Very
that food
typical,
thing.
yeah.
And I got up to 237. So that would be the one thing, without getting into a lot of the other, as you start to really train, then you'll get more committed, because the pleasure center of your brain, when you train, it starts to crave more water. It craves breast of chicken. It craves clean food like fruits and vegetables. But if you're not working out, it's like being on drugs and alcohol.
Huge.
It's like, what do? You go have a giant pizza. You go slam some ice cream, and the governor of your body's all thrown off. And you go, you do the cocaine, then you do the alcohol to try and feel normal, and then you try and eat yourself to sleep because you can't go to sleep. Versus you're off all that stuff, and you go, man, I took in 80 ounces of water today. And they say that for those that take in 80 ounces versus those that take in 40 ounces, they're happier people. They've done studies, college studies with controlled groups, and those that drink more water are happier people, and your body's 70% water. So that is the other thing, is drink lots of water. And man, if the only complaint you have, boy, I'm going to the bathroom like 6, 7, 10 times a day, you're taking all the toxins out of your body.
Right.
So water, and then the protein mixes with water. It's the best, most magical thing you can do, because you're feeding your muscle, and your body's going into a catabolic state, meaning, okay, we're kind of in hibernation, but we've had nothing to eat for 8 hours.
Right.
You're hibernating, but you're also burning fat at around 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. So don't ruin that at 7 o'clock in the morning. Have a donut or a bunch of carbs and a bunch of toast. Man, have some eggs, have some egg whites. Drink your water, and then just kind of start to feel that burn there where you go, man, that feels good. If you associate that with good versus, oh no, I'm a little bit hungry. Let me solve that.
Right.
And the average person should stop eating 20 minutes before they're full. That's what the Japanese do. That's why they outlive us. One thing they do is when they start to feel full, they stop.
Right. And we keep going.
So I listen to the monks who, they outlive everybody.
Right.
They have great lives, eat half as much, and move twice as much.
I love it.
And there's some incredible stories of some monks that do kung fu, and they've got superpower, and I've heard some real stories. There's a guy, a good friend of mine, Frank Dukes. He was the guy that was the character in Bloodsport. He's a real good friend of mine. And he was literally the guy in Bloodsport. He had 48 fights in one day, 48 knockouts in one day. And they start with 900 people, and then they work down to a 16-man bracket. Frank Dukes, that's it. He's little. Jean-Claude Van Damme was the guy that portrayed Frank Dukes. He came into my club. He goes, I hear you're a pretty good wrestler. You know who I am? I said, I have no clue. He goes, I'm Frank Dukes. I go, okay. So he's been my friend for about the last 20 years. And he wanted me to know for sure that underground fighting was real, and he was the guy. So he goes, I can't show anybody else this, 1982, but here's some of the pirated tapes from underground fighting. And
did you say 48 fights in one day?
48 fights, 48 knockouts in one day. It's a world record. They put them all in a room, and you fight until you get down to 15 people for 2 days straight.
Wow. This is crazy stuff.
So you just pick another guy. There's no weight classes. It's like the movie Bloodsport, and that's the bracket of 16 that they got down to.
Wow.
And it's not necessarily the fact that you beat somebody. It's the whole premise is you were able to fight for an entire day.
Yeah.
And the people beside you, they fought for an entire day. You survived. Wow. It's not who you beat. Right. You're not bragging about that. You're going, I survived the Kumite for an entire day. I'm going into the second day of Kumite. Yeah. And he wears dark glasses. His face is kind of contorted, but he's a great guy.
Yeah.
He's a great guy. He's one of my best friends. He came to one of my world championships in Auburn, and he flew in just for that. And he gave me an award, a citizen's award for helping the sport of wrestling, and it was like a world citizen's award that very few people get, and he's really just an awesome guy.
Quick question: is there anything coming up for the general public as far as fights to view in Auburn? Any events?
Well, we have amateur fights. And it's at the Auburn Fitness Quest right in the Outlet Collection Mall.
Right.
It'll be in April. It'll be mid-April.
Okay.
And they're seating for about 700 people.
Okay.
And it's family-oriented.
All right.
It's really good. And you'll see, and a lot of our people that do martial arts with us, we set them up with another student, and then they'll have a fight. And if they're younger, they'll have headgear on, and they'll have shin guards on. But some of the older kids, they're getting ready to turn pro. Right. So we only do amateurs. We do amateurs because it's in our club. It's homegrown. And I've done that since 2002 at our Vision Quest Club. We had seating for 2,700.
Wow.
And it was like a gladiator arena.
Yeah.
And so and wrestling is always a part of martial arts because it's the oldest sport in the world, and it's the most combative. And you'll hear in the UFC, if you have a base of wrestling, you'll have a lot better chance of winning in the UFC.
Okay.
And as a matter of fact, this last Friday, my son did a small match for all the kids. We had one of the UFC fighters call him out last week on Friday.
Yeah.
And that was on social media. So we wanted to promote wrestling, so we had that, and then we had 4 or 5 guys that called other people out. So we had a little kind of mini tournament there, and my son Jake was the grand finale of that. But he had an MMA fighter that called him out and said, "Hey, I think I can beat you in wrestling." And Jake goes, "All right, let's do that." And we had 350 kids there.
Okay.
And to watch that, they're all wrestlers from all the different clubs.
Yeah.
And it's great promotion for us. But it's really, Jake's a strong Christian. Mm-hmm. He's super tough. He's humble.
Yeah.
And he went out there and he whooped him.
Yeah, I will say that too, as far as the word humble, and I really appreciate and respect that from your family and the trainers there. You know, growing up, I used to go to different gyms, and you'd get in some atmospheres, you just felt different. One thing about Fitness Quest that I love too is that I can bring my kids, you know, and that I feel it's an environment where they get encouraged, and if anybody's interested, got to check it out for themselves. You know, I was about to sign up at another gym, and
I
got before I knew,
before you knew me,
and before I knew about that, I came in, I was doing the tour, and they're like, "Yeah, you can bring your kids." I'm like, "What age?" And they're like, "Well, any age." I was like, "Yes." That was definitely a big thing for me as a father of 3 kids to be able to exercise with them and continue to do that. But I'll check out one of those wrestling things. Again, I've never been into it my whole life. A couple friends of mine do it. They're like, oh, you got to try. And my youngest, who's 9, he did some wrestling there at your gym on Tuesday nights and really enjoyed it. And the cool thing, too, is as he was wrestling, I met quite a few people. I'm just I try my best and reach out to people. Hey, how you doing? And and next thing you know, small world, but one of the men there with his same age young boy was doing it last year. And then we reconnected kind of through a different way a couple weeks ago. And a phenomenal guy. I'll just give a shout out, but he is doing all of the inflatables at our Joy Hour now at no cost.
Nice.
Because he also has a story similar to mine as far as in recovery.
Good.
And so he brought the best, a huge 40-foot long obstacle course and bouncy house. And he's got a water slide he's going to bring in this summer, but it's called Jumpin' Joey's. And what a phenomenal story. But when he came and I was getting information from him on what the price would be for the inflatables, I'm like, I think I've met you. And so we went through the construction history, we're both in construction. We're like, no, that's not it. And I was like, oh, Fitness Quest. We sat there as our kids were wrestling and he's like, yeah, that's right. And so the relationships that can come out of a gym are really unique and different than they would come out of a club or a happy hour or a party. Yep. Right. And so that's another thing, too, as far as exchanging phone numbers with somebody, or sometimes I'll wear shirts intentionally to start conversations like Sober Dad, Addicted to That Sober Life. And a lot of beautiful relationships have come out of Auburn Fitness Quest. I haven't been to Puyallup yet, but I do value the relationships that have come out of there. I also want to say, so I don't forget, I do appreciate the support that you've given verbally and in other ways for our Joy Hour movement.
Yes.
The flyer I've handed, and it's still there on the front desk. And that means a lot to me to know in our communities that there are business owners and people that believe in the cause. And of course, the cause is creating a culture of connection, addiction prevention, mental health awareness. But take a look into Joy Hour. It's been a huge blessing in my life. And we've had over 9,000 people in a year and a half that have come. And I don't think any one of them has said, I'm not coming back, I regret coming. They all have come because there's a longing in us to connect with other people.
Family.
Yeah.
Family. Yet, see, Joy Hour and Fitness Quest, they belong together. All my partners are Christians. So even my MMA partner, he's a Christian. He lost his daughter at age 17. She had a asthma problem. And she literally was 33 from getting her asthma, and she died at age 17, completely healthy. And he said, Brad, and that was about 10 years ago, he said, I got a real anger problem. I'm mad. He said I had to I was going to go that direction, really bad, or I just had to find God. So he went all the way deep into his relationship with Christ and his wife. Yeah. So they're really good friends. They were friends all the way back from Vision Quest. And I called him when we started Fitness Quest and said, why don't you bring your whole business over here? And he had bought like 4 different businesses during COVID, but it was at the soccer stadium, that blue soccer stadium next to the Emerald Queen. And a lot of homeless people hang out there and literally live in his lobby area. He goes, man, I'd love to get out of here. And it's got, the roof is leaking. I said, just bring it over here. We'll partner up. So we did, and it just exploded.
Awesome.
So fight or flight, getting the striking and the wrestling and struggle man versus man, woman versus woman. And our women's population is really growing because 2 things. One, it gets all the stress out. You get in the best shape of your life. But women are now saying, 10 years ago, they'd say, I want to do this. I want to get in shape. I want to look like her. Now they're saying, I want to be able to defend myself.
Right.
And I'm coming out of a bad marriage. I want to be able to empower myself. Yeah. So with men and women all the way down to 4 or 5 years old, the wrestling program, the jiu-jitsu, the judo, boxing, all under one roof. So you can do it all. And for me, I live it. Yeah. I live the wrestling side of it. And getting, we're made to either fight or flight. And I'm not going to be a runner because you're running from your problem. So
come on,
I'm going to bring it, right? So I'm that caveman that's out there. Let's eat that saber-tooth tiger. I'm not going to run from it. Yeah. And I'm not going to be the slowest runner because the slowest guy's going to get eaten, right? So let's face it. And when you get that out, and I can't even really describe the feeling when you've gone as hard as you possibly can go, and at the end of the day you go, you know what? I had that deter me from the world for an hour. It's like my magic world there for an hour. I was out there working out, competing, and mano a mano, and you're just tapping the other person, or you're just drilling most of the time, unless it's shoot from Vision Quest, then you're going hard. So I recommend it for everybody.
Yeah.
Just because of the mental health of that.
Come on.
And it affects every fiber of your being. So you're going to get a huge endorphin dump. Mm-hmm. And by the way, back to those games, I've got a family member that works for a large company, mm-hmm. and it stimulates the same synapses in the brain as cocaine does. Yeah. It releases the same drug in there, and that's the addiction of video games. And the average person looks at their phone 95 times a day. So when you have that awareness of that's an issue, and you can move away from that for a bit. Right. And I'm not opposed to the video games. It's just when you lose your kid for 3 days down in the basement, and really they're having a cocaine rush off the video games because the synapses in the brains are getting a L-dopamine dump. You wonder, man, how can they do that for 6 to 10 hours? They're on drugs. So get them away from the video games and do something that's cooler. And if you get them in wrestling or you get them into working out, they go, you know what? Even your young son goes, gosh, I feel better. Yeah. And that's why I put it on him and said, you're the mentor for your dad. Mm-hmm. And your dad's a mentor for you. And for us, when the whole family joins, 300% better retention. Yeah. Because there's times where your son's going to go, Dad, you promised we're going to go work out. Yeah. There's times where your son's going to go, man, I want to finish this game. Put it in a box, and let's go work out. Right. And what better gift can you give each other than the gift of health? Right. And your life's back.
Amen. I love it. I know we're going to wrap up. We're going to do another one here soon, I hope. We have time here to do one in the next month or two, if you do. Yes. But this has been very productive. As we close out on this, just finish on the thought that I had about my son. It's the night before. If the night before my son and I say we're going tomorrow morning, that's also a time where we hold each other accountable. And it's not, you don't just flow through life, you plan life, and so we have held each other accountable, and we're going to continue to do that. But I was going to ask, how many locations for Fitness Quest right now?
We have Auburn Fitness Quest right in the Outlet Collection Mall, and then we have Fitness Quest MMA right next to it, right in the mall as well. Right. Then we have Puyallup, and that's on Main Street right next to Daffodil Bowl, the bowling center. Okay. And then we're developing one that's 10,000 square feet bigger than the Auburn one at University Place. It'll have 10 wrestling mats, but it'll be a world-class facility with $3 million of equipment. Mm-hmm. And they're all open 24 hours Monday through Friday, and then 8 to 8 on the weekend. So we always say there's really no excuse.
Is there also a women's only?
Yes, we have a women's only that's in University Place, and that's at 2300 Mildred. And that is going to move into the University Place location, which is the old Albertsons building. Okay. So those will be moving into that big location. We have a men's and we have a women's training studio, and those will move into the big location, which will be done in March.
Awesome.
Ahead of schedule.
Yeah, you go.
That's unusual in construction.
It doesn't happen on accident. It's a lot of planning. Yeah. Well, Brad, thank you so much for being on the Joy Hour podcast today.
Thank you, Tom.
If any of you listening are looking for a great atmosphere for your family to do these things, Fitness Quest, as you've heard. And again, we're thankful for the support and just having this time to get to know each other more today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.